All right, here we go on Devil's Day in Las Vegas, October 30th. Michael Myers here, actually posing as Brian Feldman, and this is Out of Line. We are here every Sunday morning at 8 on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM at 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights and sister station of Raiders Nation Radio. Me and social media director Spencer "The Wiz" Ostrovsky.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
The Wiz is out of town at a wedding, but he is still taking care of everything, making sure you can see us and hear us. And Spence, wherever you are right now, set up. You're doing a great job. Also joining the show today, Chris Wynn will be chiming in. And last minute, I really appreciate Chris jumping in on the show. And also producing from back in the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio is Chris Magnum Chapman, who also serves as a locker room reporter for Vegas Golden Knights Radio Network. And we're all located in different locations because, hey, the pandemic's still keeping us out of the Fox Sports studio. And, I'm not going to kill anyone today. I'm Michael Myers. So the bottom line is, we're here, we're live, coming at you, and you can also watch the show on Facebook Live and YouTube. If you're watching right now, you're probably wondering what the hell's going on. The page is called Out of Line. That's OUTTALINE. You can also follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Out of Line FoxLV. And since we are live, your calls and questions are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
What's on Tap, brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bancorp. Whether purchasing a new home or refinancing the home you currently own, Residential Bancorp is the company to turn to for all your home financing needs, funding America one neighborhood at a time. And don't forget to ask about the new Wedgwood homes available right now all over Las Vegas. Call 702-964-5720 for details. And to find out all about the home financing options available in Nevada. My mouth's not moving. There we go. Let's get this going correctly. So, all right, on tap today. We got a lot on tap today. The Raiders getting ready to play in like a little bit over an hour, about an hour and a half right now. The Raiders, you'll start seeing the broadcast. They are in New Orleans to play the Saints. Huge game for them. We'll talk about that. The Vegas Golden Knights off to a great start. 2 losses. Best record in the Western Conference, and they've got the second best record in all of hockey. So pretty cool there. And we'll talk about that with Nightcap in just a few minutes with Chris. And also, you got the World Series going on, man. What a World Series. Astros jump out to 5-0 leads in both games. The series is knotted at 1 game apiece. We'll talk about that. Week 8 in the NFL, always big. And we'll do some talking about that as well. And I'm just having trouble right now as Michael Myers dealing with all the stuff I got on. But we'll talk about that, and you definitely don't want to miss Fact this week. Kyrie Irving, interesting subject matter. We'll talk about that, and some interesting thoughts about Tom Brady. All coming your way. That is what's on tap today. If you are looking to buy a home or to refinance the home you currently own, choose a company you can trust. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. Call 702-964-5720 for details on all the home financing options available in the state of Nevada today. All right, let's get right to it, boys. Nightcap.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
Yeah, the puck has started a couple of weeks back, and the Vegas Golden Knights, I think, exceeding expectations. Really nice to see guys like William Karlsson putting the puck in the net, Jonathan Marchessault picking up right where he left off. But I think the most, I don't want to say necessarily surprising aspect of Vegas Golden Knights hockey right now, but the goaltending has been as good as we could have hoped at this point in the season. Aiden Hill, really coming over from San Jose, has done a job as the backup goaltender, seeing a significant amount of time between the pipes. And what about Logan Thompson? Everything to this point, don't want to jinx the guy that you could hope for, gets his second shutout of the season Friday, his third overall after 20 games last year in the NHL. This kid is playing up to par, looked really good again in net Friday night. He's stopping the shots that he needs to. It seems like there's really no weakness in the guy. Go up over his left shoulder above the pad. That's where he's been getting beat maybe more than anywhere else. But they're one-timers, man. You can't expect him to stop those, although he expects himself to stop those, and you love him having those expectations. Chris, I'll ask you back in studio. First of all, hello. I'm glad you're far away from me, so I don't have an inkling to kill you. I don't know if you can see me right now. Everyone else can, but I know you're back there. I don't know if you're able to see me. Chris Wynn can see me. Chris, I'll ask you first, and I want Chapman. Man, how good has the goaltending been for the Vegas Golden Knights to start off 7-2 this year?
Well, Brian, I think it's kind of been the story, not just of the Golden Knights, but I think it's been the story in the NHL, because you look at Logan Thompson and the road he's traveled, and look, he's about 25, 26 games into his NHL career, and pretty much every single start has been a good start. Like, he's played well enough for the Golden Knights to win almost every single game he started. Adin Hill has come in, and he's been, he's got 3 starts on the season. I have an inkling he may get the nod today. I don't know for sure, but that would be my guess as we round out October. But Brian, Adin Hill in 3 starts, you look at his numbers, and what really stands out to me is all 3 of his starts have been classified as quality starts. Like, the guy is playing phenomenal hockey, and I think you could point to Bruce Cassidy's system, right? It's very goalie friendly. A lot of the shots are from the outside, and look, there's a reason why Bruce Cassidy made Jeremy Swayman look like an all-star last year. So I shouldn't say that. That's kind of taking something away from Swayman. Look, Swayman played great hockey last year for the Bruins, but there's something about Bruce Cassidy's system that allows goalies to just really excel in his system. Tuukka Rask was a phenomenal goalie, but when you put a phenomenal goalie in a system that's forcing guys to shoot from the outside, those phenomenal goalies are going to be even better. So a lot of credit goes to the play of both Logan Thompson, who still seems to have that chip on his shoulder, and I think he heard some of the talk coming into the season about people doubting him. I don't want to say I doubted him, but I said, he's going to need to prove himself, and he certainly has kind of silenced the critics. Like I said, it's not just a story for the Vegas Golden Knights. The play of the goaltenders has been the story in the NHL this season, and I think Logan Thompson right now is leading that charge. There's certainly a question of what happens when Laurent Brossoit comes back. I know he's getting closer every single day to coming back. I don't know what this team's going to do, because Laurent Brossoit is a guy who's making $2.5 million, yeah. And he's a guy who is an NHL goalie. So you're kind of stuck with we have 3 NHL goalies on our roster. I can't imagine a situation where the Golden Knights carry 3 goalies, but why not? Why wouldn't they? Because I don't think they want to lose either Brossoit or Adin Hill. And Logan Thompson, despite being waiver exempt, I don't think he's going anywhere. So it's a good problem to have if you're the Golden Knights. The problem is it's getting closer for you to have to make a decision on what you're going to do.
Yeah, and Chris, when I'll bring you in on this conversation as well, the thing is, with Logan Thompson, Adin Hill, and Laurent Brossoit, what a luxury that is. And before, we were not looking at it as a luxury to have 3 NHL quality goaltenders. We were looking at it as, man, can one of these guys step up and be the number 1 guy? But I will say this, Magnum just alluded to the fact that, Logan Thompson's playing with his chip on his shoulder, which is awesome. But realistically, he's not really necessarily replacing Marc-Andre Fleury, going back to that old subject, because it was Robin Leonard. And it's really a thankless position when you have to replace a legend. Very rarely does a Brett Favre get replaced with an Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't happen very often. Usually you have to wait a while for another great one to come along. And the expectations on Leonard were huge initially. He's got depression issues. He's hurt. He's out for the entire season. So Logan Thompson fills in last year. He was kind of a hero. It's like, okay, Robin Leonard sit down. Everyone liked and embraced Logan Thompson because there wasn't a lot of expectations. He came into the season, and yes, people were questioning whether he was going to be the number one goaltender or not. How could you not question? He had 20 games under his belt. The team didn't make the playoffs. No fault of his, but that's where you're at. Now you come into this season, he is, they're kind of saying, okay, until Robin Leonard's healthy, which is a year away, he's going to be the guy. We're going to look at Laurent Brossoit. Aiden Hill is his potential backup. Maybe Laurent Brossoit steps into the starting role, but it's all of that. And when it's all said and done, Logan Thompson carrying this chip and playing as well as he has is great. But again, there's not the expectations on him that maybe he feels there is, or the pressure on him, because again, he's not really the heir apparent to Marc-Andre Fleury. Nobody's blaming him. It's almost like when you're the heir apparent to somebody, C-Win, that there's expectations and people wait and want to blame you. Like it's his fault that Marc-Andre Fleury got shipped out of town. But now that Robin Leonard is on the shelf for the season, it really alleviates a little bit of the pressure from the goaltenders. But it's nice to see Logan Thompson wants that pressure on him and is putting it on himself.
First out of the gate, Brian, I got to commend you on your quality pre-Halloween getup, my friend. That is top-notch right there. I'm sure Mags would agree. But, guys, make no mistake about it. Going into the season this year, there was absolutely discussion as to who the number one goaltender was going to be here in Vegas. Obviously, Logan Thompson has been able to step into the fold with the injury to Robin Leonard. And I think Mags alluded to, the logjam situation that presents itself once Brossoit comes back. I think he's the odd man out. I think the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be rolling with Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill. They brought Aiden Hill in for a reason. It was to compete for the number one job here in Vegas. It wasn't to necessarily be the guaranteed backup, and certainly not to be the shuttle goaltender between Henderson and Vegas. But Logan Thompson has impressed, no question about it. The first goaltender, I believe, in the NHL with 2 shutouts this season. Had his 3rd shutout in his career on Friday afternoon against the Anaheim Ducks. And right now he's solidified himself, I think, as the guy that's going to be the number one goaltender moving forward. I'm not in Bruce Cassidy and Berkey's head as far as that decision making, but that looks to be the situation right now. He's played very well. And it's not necessarily that Logan Thompson's going out there and making spectacular save after spectacular save and just blowing Vegas Golden Knight fans away by any stretch of the imagination, but he's doing what goaltenders need to do in the NHL, and that's not lose hockey games and be spectacular at times. He's been able to do that. So if you're asking me, and you guys know this, I've talked about this on the show many times over the past couple of months. I think Logan Thompson is a number one goaltender. I think when you're a 25-year-old in the NHL, this is when you start to establish yourself as having that ability to be a number one goaltender in the league. And so, yeah, there are people out there that think he's too young, maybe think that he's not quite the guy there yet. Well, I think that he's absolutely the guy right now. And, barring some, catastrophes or something going crazy, I think that he's going to be solidified there for a while.
Yeah, Mags, and we'll let Chad, because I want to talk about some of the other players as well. But see, when very good points. He is the number one goaltender right now. I think we all clearly see that. Magnum brought up a very interesting point, though, as far as Brossoit goes, because of what they're paying him. And then, of course, what they're paying Leonard. I mean, it is going to be next year, especially if all of them are healthy, it is going to be obviously 1 or 2 of them is going to have to get moved, but it is going to be a very interesting scenario going forward. I think right now, Bruce Cassidy is almost relieved that Laurent Brossoit is not quite ready to come back yet, and Robin Leonard's on the shelf, because if that wasn't the case, he'd be pulling the hair out of his head right now. And as Mag said, what we'll look at the only team ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights right now is Cassidy's old team, and playing really well. They're 8-1 in Boston, and of course 7-2 in Vegas. And a big part of the 7-2 reason is, this team, when they have to score, they're getting it from the guys they need to get it from, and it's nice to see William Karlsson tied for second on the team in goals right now with Chandler Stevenson. They've got 4 each. And, of course, Jonathan Marchessault leads the way. Chris, before we get to the interviews, Chris had a chance to talk to William Karlsson, who I think is one of everyone's favorite player, just an all-around great guy. I don't know that he'll ever get to 43 goals in a season again as he did in the inaugural season, but he is a guy that is very dangerous, put the puck in the net. He plays well with and without the puck, which is very, very important. William Karlsson is a great setup man, and he's also a great finisher when he's on his game. And of course, Jonathan Marchessault just picking up what he did last year. Like to see him lead the team with 5 goals. And Riley Smith, an invaluable player, deservedly wearing the A on his jersey. And this kid is a staple of the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll hear from both Riley Smith and Karlsson in a second. But Chris, before you jump into the interviews and you can guide us into them, one of the criticisms, which is kind of a little bit surprising, but not really, is Jack Eichel. I mean, he's tied for the team lead in points. He's got 3 goals and 5 assists. But when you listen to the media and you even listen to the broadcast, they're expecting more out of Jack Eichel. And don't you think 8 points, if you're leading the team in points or tied for the lead, that's good enough? Or are you expecting more out of Eichel too?
When the team needs somebody to step up and the team needs a guy to make a big play, is Jack Eichel that guy or not? That's what really stands out to me. Yeah. As long as you're winning games and you're a threat to win the Stanley Cup, look, it's a team game. And look, I think Jack knows that, and I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that he knows there's a ton of pressure on him and the team. And, look, the team is playing really well, and the chemistry seems to be there. The one thing I will say is the move to add Chandler Stevenson and Mark Stone to that line. I think Chandler Stevenson is a guy who really, really is standing out now. He got lost in Washington in the first few seasons he was here. We all knew he could play, but he was buried a little bit. He is a top-line player. And I think what a lot of people, maybe they don't look because they don't look at the stats, but having Jack Eichel and Mark Stone on the same line together allows teams to kind of or forces teams to kind of forget about Chandler Stevenson. So from that regard, you have Jack Eichel and Mark Stone on this line, and look, maybe teams are going to focus on them a little bit more, and things are going to be a little bit more difficult for them. But what that does is it allows a high-skill, high-speed guy like Chandler Stevenson to excel. So, yeah, the numbers and the stats might not be what fans want, but when you look at it as a whole, the play of the line has been really good since Bruce Cassidy made the decision to put those two together. I don't care, like I said, I don't care about goals. I don't care about assists. To me, that's not what matters. What matters is a team winning games, and the team's winning games. At some point, the team is going to call on Jack Eichel, and he's going to have to step up. They haven't needed that yet. But as we get further and further into the season, it's going to become a case where that is something that's going to happen. And that's when Jack Eichel will ultimately be judged, not what's happened in the first 9 games of the season where the team is 7-2.
No, I agree with you, and I think that don't sleep on Jack Eichel, anybody out there. And sometimes the media gets a little carried away. Yes, there are very high expectations. There are a lot of people that consider Jack Eichel maybe the 3rd best skater in hockey. There's older guys like Alex Ovechkin who might have an issue with that, but behind Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, I mean, this is a premier, top-notch player, and at times we see him play like that, and I think we will see him play like that when he's called him up. And you're absolutely right, Chris? What a line that is with Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, and Chandler Stevenson. I mean, you can't get much tougher than that. It also allows Bruce Cassidy to play with these lines and put the production line back out there of William Karlsson, Riley Smith, and Jonathan Marchessault. So you're talking about two lines that could be number one lines on a lot of teams in the National Hockey League, and that is pretty cool. And you even get productions from the other lines. This team is very deep, very strong, and if the goaltending remains consistent, the Vegas Golden Knights once again become a contender to win it all, and I like that. Chris, you did have a chance after the game to talk with two integral parts and two inaugural members of the Vegas Golden Knight teams. Huge fan favorites, both these guys are, and both of them scored a goal in Friday afternoon's game on Nevada Day. You could set it up, man. I don't know which one you want to play first, but we're going to hear from both William Karlsson and Riley Smith. Chris got to talk with both of them after the game on Friday.
Yeah, it's funny. They're really missing a Marchessault goal away from a misfit hat trick. But, we can start with Riley Smith because it was his shorthanded goal that kind of changed the game. It was 1-0 at that point. And I asked Bruce Cassidy about it in the press conference, and I think Jake Lecision is a guy, he made his first start of the season on Friday, got in his first action, but he took a penalty for roughing, and Bruce Cassidy was like, we like that type of penalty because Jake didn't like, it was Frank Vetrano. He did not like Frank Vetrano impeding in the crease of the goalie after the whistle, and Lecision took a penalty for roughing because he kind of threw Vetrano out like a bag of trash. And it was off of that penalty that kind of got the team going. Zach Whitecloud got into a fight. So it was a bit, by the way, Zach, take your gloves off next time. But it was kind of like a play that got the team going. And Bruce Cassidy mentioned that he told the team we were going to kill that penalty, and they would take that penalty all day. So Jake Lecision, he didn't get any points in the game, but it was his a penalty that kind of changed the momentum of the game. And I asked Riley Smith about the shorthanded goal and the connection him and William Karlsson have.
William Karlsson more than you two scoring a shorthanded goal?
Probably not. I think we've done a good job over the years creating offense shorthanded. He does such a good job being able to steal pucks and get up ice and make some creative plays, and that's what he did tonight. So I just tried to put it on net, got a little bit lucky, but he did all the hard work there.
It seemed like that play kind of propelled you guys a bit in the second period. Just kind of talk about what happened there.
Yeah, that's always a big momentum swing when it's a 1-0 game and you're able to really change the momentum, steal a goal, and it definitely affects the next couple shifts. So I felt we built on that, created a lot more opportunities. I think we could have had a lot more goals tonight, but big win, we'll take it and move on.
That was Riley Smith. And really that shorthanded goal kind of changed things around quite a bit. But I also talked to William Karlsson, and Karlsson is a guy who the most goals he has scored as a member of the Golden Knights have come against the Anaheim Ducks.
William, 14 goals you've scored against the Ducks. What is it about this team that just kind of brings out the best in you?
Well, we do play them a lot, so that's been a lot of games since that first year here. So, I don't know. It just seems to fit me.
Do you kind of still harbor a little animosity towards them for kind of giving up on you?
No, not really. That's such a long time ago, so I don't really think about that anymore.
What is it about you and Riley on the penalty kill that just seems to just flow so well?
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing or killing a lot, since the beginning, and we look for ways to go the other way, because usually, some power plays tend to relax a little bit. So if we have a chance to strike the other way, we try to seize that opportunity.
You see me playing with a lot of confidence, but you also look like you're having a lot of fun. How important are those two things for your game?
I think it's two ingredients you want, when you're playing hockey, just confidence and having fun. That's when you play your best.
Yeah, by the way, when we walked in the locker room on Friday after the game, Dancing Queen by ABBA was the song that was playing on the speaker in the locker room. So I don't know if that was because me and William have spoken about it multiple times. In his words, ABBA makes, quote, bangers, which I had to ask him what banger was. And it was like a banger is a big hit. So I don't know if they played that for William, but ABBA Dancing Queen was playing in the locker room. By the way, one time I walked in and That Don't Impress Me by Shania Twain was playing one day when we were up in San Jose for the playoffs a couple of years ago. So the fellas in the locker room have a very diverse taste in music, but I'm a big ABBA fan, so I loved when I walked in the locker room and I got to hear some ABBA playing on the speaker in the room.
I'm an ABBA fan as well, so I wish I would have been there. I couldn't go Friday afternoon. I know you and Chris Wynn went and saw a big win, a big shutout.
And gotta shout out Chris Wynn for mushing our buddy Willie Ramirez. Willie was talking to the two of us in one of the intermissions about BYU and how he felt that they were going to bounce back, and Chris was all, "Hey Willie, I got BYU too." Guess what? BYU, no show.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I know about that.
Mags and Brian, but all three of us, right? We've either covered, obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights here, and we've seen a lot of hockey in our lifetimes. I got to say, this Vegas Golden Knights hockey club, over its existence, has scored a lot of shorties, right, guys? I mean, we've seen a lot of hockey. This for some reason, this organization has a knack for getting goals on the penalty kill, more so than any other team that I've covered or followed. And, the three of us have had a ton of time and have watched a lot of hockey.
No, we have, Chris. We're going to move on to the next subject. You're 100% right. And the thing is with that is it's special teams. And I think the biggest reason when you see a lot of teams scoring shorthanded, it is because a lot of the defensemen on the Vegas Golden Knights, unlike most teams I've ever seen, are two-way players. You know, Shea Theodore, Alec Martinez can put the puck in the net. We know how good Alex Pietrangelo is. This is a team with 3 or 4 defensemen that are known to be able to score a decent amount of goals during the season. And when you have that, then you've got a lot of great two-way forwards like Mark Stone. I mean, I don't know that there's a better special team player in the National Hockey League. When he's at his best, he's as good as it gets, both on the penalty kill and playing when they're on the power play. So I like it a lot. And you are right. Having them score shorthanded, that is a monstrous weapon when you've got a team that has the ability to jump up on a rush shorthanded and score a goal. It's pretty cool. Guys, the Golden Knights, the big thing now, huge game against Winnipeg today. When I say a huge game, it's because they're getting ready for a 5-game road trip. You want to start that trip and get a win. And today, Winnipeg, Chris talked about before, Chris Chapman, I should say, talked about how Winnipeg is a team nobody better sleep on. The Knights handled them the first time around, but it is going to be a difficult task to play this team, especially knowing you've got a 5-game road trip coming up. Hopefully that won't get too much in their heads. Have a good game this afternoon. And then, starting on Tuesday, they're in Washington. They've got a tough road to haul, and we'll see what happens there. Guys, real quick, I want to quickly touch on UNLV. They've got the week off this week. I think a good week for them to have the week off after, a couple of bad losses. They didn't play terrible against Notre Dame, but hopefully all this time off, the one thing everyone wants to see if you're a UNLV fan is you want to see the reemergence of Doug Brumfield. You want to see him back on the football field. And I think this extra week off, we'll probably see Brumfield in San Diego State next Saturday, which is going to be huge, as that is a very defensive-minded team. And again, if you've watched UNLV this year, the weakness, and it is a glaring weakness, is you can out-physical this team. They're not huge as far as size and stature goes. We saw Notre Dame's offensive line just shove them around defensively. But the big thing about UNLV is they need to play tougher. And, at times you see it, but they were manhandled a couple of weeks ago. against San Jose State, and they got manhandled against Air Force also. And Notre Dame, you expected to see what you saw. Like I said, I actually thought they were more competitive in that game than I thought they would be based on the 2 prior weeks. But I think it's a big necessary week off for them. I think they go to San Diego State before they come back here to play Fresno, and that's going to be a huge game because I don't think they get a win in San Diego State. I think they dip under 500. And guys, with 4 games left, they've got to win 2 to become bowl eligible. And, it seemed after their first 4 wins, they'll find 2 more wins there. It's not going to be that easy. Fresno State, Hawaii, Reno, none of those are gimmies. And San Diego State, I think, is going to be a real tough road to haul again because they are a defensive-minded team and they are a very physical football team, something UNLV has struggled a little bit with. Instead of getting your take on that, guys, I don't know if you watched college football yesterday, but Chris, I know with both of us being from Michigan, the game in Michigan playing Michigan State, it went the way I think everyone expected it to go. This kid, Blake Corum, I'm tired of hearing comparisons to Barry Sanders. Please, he's in college. Let him play 10 years in the NFL. Let me look at his statistics before I call him Barry Sanders. But Corum does have that incredible stopping and starting ability that's pretty cool. But U of M wins that game going away. MSU pokes a nose in front 7-3. U of M scores the next 26 points. It was what we expected. But after the game, there's some problems in the hall, I guess in the tunnel at Michigan. And I saw it, Chris. It looked really ugly. And what I'm scared of is what the hell happened that MSU had their entire football team there. It looked like I only saw 1 or 2 U of M players, and they were getting punched. It was like they were getting gang, it was like a gang there that was tackling 2 guys. Harbaugh was real upset about it. It's being investigated by the Ann Arbor police, but what the hell happened that you saw?
Yeah, there were times where obviously, Brian, you and myself, love to be associated with Michigan State and the athletic program. And this is one of those times where it's extremely embarrassing. It happens occasionally, obviously, when Draymond Green does some crazy things. And, it's tough to be associated with. This is another one. It was completely unacceptable. Went down after the football game. You can bounce over on social media. Mel Tucker, the head coach, is talking about it, how, this is not indicative of what our program represents and how we operate. And then you see the video, and it's just absolutely inexcusable by any stretch of the imagination. And there's going to be a number of players I would anticipate that are probably going to get kicked off the football team. Suspensions coming, and it's just it's kind of not only does it make the program look bad, but it makes Mel Tucker and the coaching staff look bad if they don't rectify the situation, right? If they don't do something that's adequate for what went down. And you're exactly right, Brian. The video, it's essentially a handful of Michigan State players smacking around a Michigan player, and then the Michigan player eventually gets out of there. But you just can't have that happen. And look, we understand it's a rivalry. We understand it's Michigan State, and it's a featured game on ABC, and Michigan. There's no question that Michigan State is a down year for the Spartans. Michigan is in line to play one of their bigger games against Ohio State at the end of the season and could contend for a national championship. And it's basically a mismatch this season. So as you pointed out, Brian, the outcome was as expected. Although it's amazing, Mags and Brian, how dead on Vegas is with this number, though. The number lands on 23, and Michigan State goes down by 22. But I digress. Yes, it was as expected on the football field. But as far as the ending of the entire situation, you can't have it go down like that, and it makes Michigan State look really bad.
No, you can't. And again, it was a bad look overall. U of M Michigan State is something we look forward to, as you mentioned, every year, Chris. And there has been upsets. I mean, Rocky Lombardi a couple of years ago, they made him look like a Heisman Trophy winner when Michigan was supposed to win that game, and Michigan State won it. This game, again, went as expected. I talked about Blake Corum, 177 rushing yards, the most against Michigan State since the running backs coach of Michigan, Mike Hart, did it.
Yeah.
He rushed for like 217 yards back in 2005. And this kid's the real deal. Michigan, Ohio State is going to be a tremendous game. Penn State tried to ruin that yesterday, but Ohio State ended up coming through. It's going to be a hell of a game. Michigan 2 in a row over Ohio State has not happened in a while. Harbaugh could really use it, though. He gained a lot of his popularity back last year by finally beating Ohio State, and now the expectations are for him to do it again this year. We'll see what happens when all is said and done. But right now, I want to get and real quickly one other thing before I get to fact this, which I think is pretty interesting today. I just wanted to mention real quick. Last week, and Chris Wynn watched the show. You chimed in. Mags was at Notre Dame, and Mags, we talked about something, and I'll let you chime in real quick. I'm going to give you a minute on this subject matter because I'd really like to know what you think. Last week, I had a big, we had a big conversation. I don't even want to call it a debate.
You were fired up. I was fired up.
All the teams changing their names, Chris. It's getting to the point of lunacy, in my opinion. I understand it. I understand you want diversity. I understand we can't have any type of racism, any type of discrimination in sports. There's no use for it in the world, but it's all over the place. We know that. But again, none of these team names were ever devised or designed with discriminatory thoughts in mind. They were team names. I know that the Sioux Nation in North Dakota was not happy at all about them changing the name from the Fighting Sioux to the Fighting Hawks. So when I saw that last week, Mags, I decided to check on the most discriminatory name and discriminatory logo in all of sports, and that would be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The logo is a leprechaun fighting. And as a kid, what are the stereotypes we hear? Again, I'm Jewish. I could say it. Jews are cheap. That's what we hear. We hear that Polish people aren't intelligent, and we hear that Irish people like to fight. Those are stereotypes. How the hell is it okay for Notre Dame to have a logo of a leprechaun depicting an Irish person fighting with his fists in the air, and the name of the team is the Fighting Irish, and not a single soul calls attention to that? Why? I say I'm okay with it if everyone playing for Notre Dame is Irish. Don't think that's the case. So why is it okay for Notre Dame to be called the Fighting Irish, but North Dakota State not to be called the Fighting Sioux? Mags, love to hear it.
My great grandparents were from Ireland, so we also, my other set of great grandparents, one of them was in the mob, so there's some stereotypes there as well. But as far as the indigenous names, I feel like that's a debate that I feel like it's kind of weird, because you have the University of Utah, and they're the Utes, and the Florida State Seminoles, and it seems like those tribes are good with the names, because there's promotion of the tribe, and I think it's a debate that needs to happen within the tribe as far as whether or not they should pursue changes or not. Look, the Washington football team, I mean, look, there's no secret that the guy who came up with that, what his views were on minorities, and the guy who was the original owner of that team way back in wherever it was, the 1920s, 1930s, the guy was a scumbag, and he certainly wasn't on the up and up when it came to race relations. So I have a couple of people in my family who support that football team. I understand that they're upset, and again, that's not a debate that I feel is similar to the Utes and the Seminoles, right? That one was just blatantly vile, and the logo on the helmet was just vile. I can understand there's a difference between that and the Fighting Sioux. If the Sioux Nation took offense to that name, then certainly we need to have the discussion. I can't speak for anyone in that nation because I'm not indigenous. My family are all immigrants. But when they tell us that it's offensive, we need to listen. A couple weeks ago, the NHL released their reverse retro jerseys, and the New Jersey Devils and Colorado Avalanche both basically went with the same jersey. But my comment in regards to that was the Colorado Avalanche used to be, the New Jersey Devils used to be the Colorado Rockies. Then they moved to Kansas City and became the Kansas City Scouts before they became the New Jersey Devils. Well, the Scouts it had I would say probably an offensive indigenous logo. So when the New Jersey Devils released their reverse retro jersey, I was glad to not see that logo associated with their jersey, despite the fact that they used the colors of the KC Scouts. Look, the Notre Dame one, I don't know. I mean, like I said, my family's Irish.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm cutting you off for a second because this is my point. You want to talk about offensive and discriminatory, look at the logo. I don't know if Spencer can put it up for us right now on the screen, but really look at it. You want to go to now you're going to tell me Irish weren't oppressed when they came to the United States?
Oh, they absolutely were. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to say that you didn't hear the stereotype as a young kid that Irish people like to fight? That is a stereo. Okay.
As someone who's Irish, I heard we like to drink a lot
you
too.
You drink and you fight. So all the logos, all the Notre Dame logo is missing is a beer. The guy holding a beer.
And you know what's funny? They don't sell beer in their stadium.
But I understand, and I know that. But here's the crazy thing. You go to a house in Ireland, knock on the door. A little Irish lady opens the door, nice, peaceful family. Why aren't you fighting? Is that what you're supposed to? Are you offended that they call you the Fighting Irish? Chris, my point is, it's lunacy. I talked to Pete Krplevich, as I mentioned, one of my best friends in the world, who was an honorable mention All-American in Notre Dame and played for Lou Holtz. And he would be furious if they changed the name.
Well, Brian,
but here's the thing, Chris, again, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to leave it here, the food for thought. It's okay to be the Fighting Irish. Well, I'm Jewish. What if we founded a school and we called them the Cheap Jews? Would that be okay? Would it be okay to call a team the Dumb Poles? No, it wouldn't.
Of course not.
Fighting is a discriminatory thing, a moniker towards Irish people, that they all like to fight. That is absolutely not.
But Brian, there's another aspect of this. Maybe Fighting Irish is fighting back against all of the stereotypes, right? You just mentioned that there was discrimination towards the Irish and Southern Europeans when they moved here. So, Fighting Irish could just be a moniker for, hey,
Chris,
we're fighting back against.
I think you're bailing them out. I don't think at all that's what it was. I think it just fit. And I truly believe, but maybe it is, and that's what they would say. But again, Spencer had a very good point, and I'm going to leave this subject of this so we can move on. Spencer said to me when we were talking about, should we bring this up on the show? Do we really want to go down this rabbit hole? And he said, let's answer this question. Will changing the names of all of these programs and professional sports teams, will the world be a better place because of it? Is it truly for the greater good? Because if it is not, we are screwing with tradition. We are screwing with history. All the NFL players that are in the Hall of Fame as Washington Redskins. Now, I think that name needed to go. Okay, I'm not disagreeing. But the Hall of Famers from the Cleveland Indians, what do? We go in and erase the name off their bus in the Hall of Fame? I mean, this is history. And again, if it is going to be, Chris Wynn, for the greater good of mankind, then by all means make the changes. But Chris, is it going to be for the greater good of mankind? Chris Wynn, go ahead.
So, Brian and Mags, let me bottom line this for you. And your passion, Mr. Feldman, notwithstanding, we've had a lot of name changes, right, in recent years. We're talking about the last 3, 4, 5 years. We've had a lot of name changes across the board. I don't think the Notre Dame program is changing the Fighting Irish name. I just don't think they're doing it. And it's probably for a number of reasons. You guys highlighted a big portion of those, but I don't think it's necessarily on the docket. I don't think it's necessarily. And I pointed this out to you, Brian, last week before the show. I said, look, it's interesting to kind of debate, and it's a great radio topic. But when it's all said and done, when the rubber meets the road, let me use all the analogies I can throw in here. I don't think Notre Dame's going to change the name. And I agree. There hasn't been a massive outcry to change it.
You are correct. I apologize. We do got to move on. We got about 13 minutes left to go, and we've got Scoop coming up in a few minutes, and we got to get to football. But I don't want to miss out on Fact This. We'll keep this as brief as we can. But go ahead, Spencer. Hit it.
Fact This. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact This.
Yeah, it is a fact that on Thursday, Kyrie Irving tweeted a link to a movie, and I guess it bakes with an Amazon page, and promoting the film titled Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. On Friday, Rolling Stone said the movie is, and I quote, stuffed with anti-Semitic tropes. Irving tweeted early Saturday, again, that he meant no disrespect towards anyone's religion or religious beliefs, and that this is not, and he is not anti-Semitic. The NBA and Nets owner Joe Tsai both released statements of their own, basically condemning anti-Semitism. Now, the question is this, since you're a public figure, why would you do this? And this is what Kyrie Irving had to say in the press conference yesterday.
22. History is not supposed to be hidden from anybody. And I'm not a divisive person when it comes to religion. I embrace all walks of life. You see it on all my platforms. I talk to all races, all cultures, all religions. And my response would be, it's not about educating yourself on what Semitism is and what anti-Semitism is. It's really about learning the root words of where these come from and understanding that this is an African heritage that is also belonging to the people. Africa is in it, whether we want to dismiss it or not. So the claims of anti-Semitism and who are the original chosen people of God, and we go into these religious conversations and it's a big no-no. I don't live my way like that. What I post does not mean that I support everything that's being said or everything that's being done, or I'm campaigning for anything. All I do is post things for my people in my community and those that it's actually going to impact. Anybody else that has criticism, it obviously wasn't meant for them. In terms of the backlash or what people call it, we're in 2022.
Yeah, we're in 2022, and I get all that. And you see, I'm wearing the poop emoji right here because, guys, seriously, I mean, to say that if it offended you, it wasn't meant for you. You've got over 1 million followers on Twitter, Kyrie Irving. It's meant for a lot of people that are going to see this and going to see you representing and sponsoring a movie that Rolling Stone said is loaded with anti-Semitic rigmarole. It just is. So is it okay? Chris, is it okay? Chris Wynn.
Absolutely not okay. Look, there has been a history with Kyrie Irving regarding statements that are questionable at best, ridiculous at worst. And look, this is kind of par for the course, to be quite honest with you. I don't really understand the fascination, that's the word I'm going to use, for all this anti-Semitic ranting and comments being made as of late. Look, I understand we're in a very polarizing political climate right now where people, are ramped up with emotions and have their opinions and feelings. I get that. But with what was said here, and then you've got, obviously the stuff that's going on with Kanye West regarding his anti-Semitic, indefensible, inexcusable, offensive comments that he made. And then there's people out there trying to defend them, right?
That's crazy.
How about this? Just don't defend them. Just call them what they are. Call them wrong and call them offensive.
Quit playing
and
the music.
Then go on your way. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, Chris, you're exactly right. This was so bothersome, it's not even funny. There will be recourse probably by the NBA and probably by the New Jersey Nets. We'll see what I see at the Brooklyn Nets. We'll see what ends up happening there. Guys, moving on real quick to the Raiders. Raiders play in just a very short period of time, a little over an hour. They're kicking off in New Orleans. Last week after the press conference, had some opportunities. One of the things we're going to skip around, I had a bunch of them, but we don't have time for all of them. But I did get a chance to talk to Derek Carr afterwards. And one of the things I said to Derek Carr was, when it's all said and done and you were there, they're still 2-4. And this is the conversation I had real quickly with Derek Carr after the game.
Derek, it's a big win, but at the end of the day, you guys are 2-4, and it's an uphill climb. Each game is so vitally important. What do you think it's going to take to get this team to start stringing some wins together?
Well, a lot of what we did today, really towards the end of the second quarter and on. We stopped beating ourselves, and we just executed. And it sounds so cliche, but when you just do your job the right way, not your way, but just do it the right way. And all 11 do that. On offense, you need all 11. If one guy doesn't do it, the play's over. Defensively, if a corner, blows a coverage, but the defensive end gets a sack, it's nice. But offense, you need all 11. And if we can keep doing that, then hopefully we can play good football going forward. But it's not going to be easy. We got a lot of tough teams coming up, especially this next week.
Yeah, that next week is today, and it's going to be a tough game in New Orleans, a tough road to haul. One of the other guys I got a chance to really quickly talk to after the press conference, and I wanted to play this is, Derek Carr said it was pretty cool getting Davante Adams to come to the Raiders. His buddy from college, they are really good friends. They practice every year in the offseason, but he said as happy as he was, he said in the press conference, no one was happier than Josh Jacobs about getting Davante Adams because of how much it's going to open up the running game for him, and we've seen it. I asked Josh Jacobs about that after the game as well.
He's one of the best, if not the best, in his league, in his game right now. And I would say that he definitely took everybody's game to another level. He took my game to another level just because of the way he practiced. I mean, you see this dude make plays, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I've ever seen it before. You know what I'm saying? Like certain things like that, and I'm like, man, like I remember in camp, me and Amir was talking, and I was like, we really witnessing greatness right now. Like the dude really, like the way he go about his business, the way he approach, take care of himself, working and things like that. I mean, it's been fun to be around. So for me to be able to see it and actually, see what he does from a day-to-day standpoint, I feel like that elevated my game.
Win, I'll give you the floor for 60 seconds before we bring aboard the scoop. But Davante Adams, a huge addition to this team. I think he's fifth right now in the NFL receiving yards. No one loved what happened after the Raiders game a couple weeks ago, where he he basically shoved a cameraman's assistant. But he's a huge addition to this team. Can the Raiders continue to build on what they did last week against Houston, or is it too much of an uphill climb, 4-2, and this team still is missing parts?
Well, they absolutely can. Look, they absolutely have to build on that second half performance against Houston, where offensive they're able to get things going, clicking wise, particularly in the run game, right? With Josh Jacobs, who had a big time game in that second half. He's got to be a factor today in New Orleans against the Saints, who are dealing with their own kind of adversity, looking with the quarterback situation. It appears that Jameis Winston is now healthy, but is now on the bench, and they're going to start Andy Dalton instead. And we understand how they use Taysom Hill in offense, and they've missed some key pieces there for New Orleans. But this is a game that the Raiders have to win because they're just a better football team than the New Orleans Saints are. So you got to go in there, put up some points. You got to see Derek Carr play well. Look, he hasn't had spectacular numbers, but he can't go out there and have one of those 3 interception games that ends up costing them this matchup against New Orleans. So offensively, they got to be able to click. Defensively, it's kind of a bend but don't break type of approach that they need to take. And I think they'll be okay. And yes, building meaning they can get a win against a lesser football team in New Orleans in the Big Easy against the Saints, and then kind of figure things out the rest of the way to see if they can get back into playoff contention for the rest of the season.
I agree. One of the things I've liked the last couple of games, especially last week against Houston, is finally we're seeing Chandler Jones play like Chandler Jones was expected to play. And if the bookends, him and Crosby, can continue to play that way and put heat on opposing quarterbacks, especially today, the red pea shooter in New Orleans, they should do pretty well. Real quickly, let's bring in the scoop and we got week 8. Right now in the National Football League. Huge week for a lot of teams. Raiders may be as big as anyone. Scoop, are you there? There he is.
There he is. Yes,
Can you hear me?
We got you, Scoop. Go right ahead. You got your minute.
Well, I got a question. When's the last time you saw a 3-4 football team favored on the road against a team 5-2?
It's probably been years. It's probably been years,
happen.
Right, Brian?
Yep, doesn't happen often.
You don't see it often. And today we have one of those situations. It's a rare spot. We got the New England Patriots going to New York to take on a team that has overachieved so far. Zach Wilson been sacked 52 times this year. Stud left tackle Elijah Vera Tucker tears his tricep last week. So now we're going to be shuffling some guys around there. Didn't have a lot of talent to begin with on that left side of the offensive line. Now you got a New England team coming in who they're 6th in pressure rate this year, despite watching Justin Fields run around the field last week all game. And so Belichick's going to have these boys ready to try to get some pressure on a young quarterback who, in my opinion, is the worst starter in football. Doesn't look like he should be out there sometimes. So with Mac Jones coming back to the fold, I expect to see a more focused New England team. Short favorites here. No, you guys don't want the money lines, but we'll lay the points. -3. All the above. New England gets the job done. And then for the parlay, we're going to run it with the San Francisco 49ers. This is a team that I'm high on, going up against a team that I'm low on. And we like the lows and the buys to come in together. The Rams are a team that some things just aren't the same.
You got to give us a parlay, brother. They're going to start playing the music behind us.
That's the parlay. 49ers in the parlay with the New England Patriots, a simple two-teamer. Let's get to the window.
I love it. I think it's a great call in the San Francisco Rams game. They always play well. San Francisco seems to have the Rams number, and the Rams are very depleted, especially on the offensive line. That's going to hurt them, and they're depleted defensively as well. So I like it a lot. You heard it. Pick of the week. New England, give up the 3 points. It scares me, but I'm going with you, Scooper. Always appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Chugs and hugs to the moon.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, we are out of time. I want to thank Chris Wynn last minute joining us. See, Wynn, thanks as always, brother.
Hey, great times as always, and it's always fun to join the Outta Line crew. I'll be rolling into the Vegas Golden Knights Winnipeg Jets game tonight, covering that, and I'll probably be giving Willie Ramirez, Mags, and Brian another hot pick for the evening.
I love it. See Win at the game. I'm not making it tonight. A lot of football. I want to thank Chris back in studio, Chris Magnum Chapman, and of course the Wiz making sure everything goes on point, even though he missed his plane. I'm Brian Feldman. This is Outta Line. Back next week, same time. Hopefully Kevin Kruger will join us next week as UNLV running Rebels get ready to tip off their season coming up in just a little bit over a week. Once again, Outta Line every Sunday morning, 8 to 9. I'm Brian Feldman. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.